Hello, this is a very basic frame-by-frame tutorial for Krita, and I'm on Krita 5.2.6. So frame by frame you're going to need this Docker animation timeline, which can be found in Settings, Docker's Animation Timeline. There are two main operations you're going to be using in frame by framing, and that is create blank frame, which creates a frame with nothing on it, and create duplicate frame, which creates a frame that's the same as the one before it. To do this, you can right-click the timeline, and create a blank frame or create a duplicate frame. You can also use the keybinds, which I've set as Control F and Control G. You can also use the buttons, which are over here. I recommend setting a keybind, as you're going to be using these constantly. So by default, a layer is non-animated. To make a layer animated, you need to create a frame on it, which you can do either. I'll just create a blank frame here, and you can see that now the layer is animated, so it has this onion skin icon. It also has this little video player icon in the layer Docker. So to make a simple animation, I'll just start by drawing a shape here, or something like a heart, and then I'll move to another frame down the timeline, create a blank frame so it doesn't show up in this frame, and then I'll change it to a circle or something, and then I'll move along, and I'll create a blank frame again, and I'll change it to a square. So now when I play the animation, it changes every 2 frames. You can see that now that I've made frames, there's this continuous horizontal line running throughout the whole thing. That just means that there's a drawing currently on that layer. So if I created a blank frame here, the purpose of blank frames is to create a new drawing, and the purpose of duplicate frames is to modify an existing drawing. So I can also just transform things to create a duplicate frame. I'll remove this blank keyframe so I can actually see the square. I'll move this, and you can see that it's automatically created a new duplicate frame. So it moved from here to here. You can also use a duplicate frame to add something. By default, when you draw on an animated layer, so one that has this icon, it will automatically create a new duplicate frame, whichever frame you draw on. So you can see that I drew there and it created a new frame. To copy, move, and delete frames, there are a few ways. Copying frames can be done by right-clicking the timeline of that frame and copying it. It can also be done with a keybind, which I have as Control-Shift-C. It can also be done by holding Alt and dragging the keyframe. Moving frames can be done by just dragging them, or cutting them using Control-Shift-X and pasting them. Deleting frames can be done by right-clicking them, removing keyframe. Remove keyframe and pull just removes it and moves the other ones towards it. You can also use a keybind like Control-Shift-Delete. You can select keyframes starting by clicking on an empty space and then dragging to select them, and from there you can copy, move, delete. You can also click and hold Shift and click on another place and it will select. You can select across multiple layers as well, so if I clicked here, held Shift and then clicked there. You're also going to be needing to use onion skins when you're frame by framing, and that can be found in Settings, Docker's, Onion Skins. So it shows you an imprint of your previous or current frame. If I drew on this layer, this animated layer, and I turned on onion skins with this light bulb icon, and then I created a blank frame, then you can see the previous frame is still there, and I can draw based off of it. It also works for duplicate frames. So no matter how many frames away or close your next keyframe is, it will still show up. So I've got more frames between this, but you can see it still appears. How many previous or next frames you want to show up is determined by this. So if I selected -2, it also shows me the second last frame. But I have mine set to only the previous and next frame. You can also drag the columns under the numbers to determine how opaque the onion skin's going to be. And you can, oh, to note, you can't use the fill tool properly while onion skins is on, because it uses the onion skins as a reference. So when you're using the fill tool, turn it off temporarily. You can turn it back on later. Pinning layers. So every layer by default gets pinned, but there's a setting to turn it off, which is in General, Miscellaneous, Automatically Pin New Layers to Timeline. I recommend you turn it off. You should select layers that you're going to use a lot, or have a lot of frames on them that you can use as timing reference to the timeline. So you can pin a layer to the timeline by pressing this icon, or right-clicking it and pressing Pin to Timeline. What this does is that if you move off the layer, like I have sketch pinned right now, if I move onto another layer, like line 1, then sketch still shows up in the timeline. A keybind you're also going to set to navigate the timeline is just moving frames. So I have moving up and down the timeline set to comma, full stop, like greater than, less than. And all of the keybinds you can find in settings, configure Krita, keyboard shortcuts. So just search like frame, and most of them should come up. Copy keyframes, create blank frame, create duplicate frame, cut key. And you can see I've got next frame, previous frame as full stop and comma.